Geoff Mosher from the Inside the Birds podcast is here for today's edition of Football at 4 on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, and live video on the X platform, YouTube, at Mike Gill Show. Share, like, subscribe. Geoff Mosher is here. We have a Mosher Monday mailbag edition with fresh questions for Geoff Mosher on this Mailbag Monday. What's up, Moshe?
What's up, Mike? How you doing? I got a question for you.
Yes.
Did I hear you correctly say you don't know who Anthony Mackie is, the actor?
I do not know who Anthony Mackie, the actor, is, no.
Have you ever seen the movie 8 Mile with Eminem?
I have not.
Really?
No.
Wow, okay. And I take it you're not a Marvel guy because then you would know who Captain America was. All right.
No.
All right. I was surprised. I thought you might have seen 8 Mile because that's a really popular movie. But all right.
Yeah, no, haven't seen 8 Mile. Don't know Anthony Mackie. Not a Marvel guy. So 0 for 3 on the Anthony Mackie tries there. Sorry.
we move on.
Geoff Mosher, by the way, from the Inside the Birds podcast and PhillyVoice.com. You can check out all his coverage at Philly Voice. We got we got mailbag questions today again for a Mosher Monday mailbag edition of the Sports Bash. A lot of post-OTA stuff, a lot of stuff getting us ready for the summertime here, Geoff Mosher. So we'll get to those questions here for you from the Inside the Birds podcast, which you can check out on all podcasting platforms. Stephen Bridgeton starts us off with a Mosher Monday mailbag edition. Moshe, how would you handicap the battle at right guard going into training camp? Is it Tyler Steen's job to lose? Steve in Bridgeton.
Yeah, I think so. Yes. Maybe when they traded and acquired Kenyon Green, I think people got excited about that because he's a first-round pick and, we're fresh off watching Mekhi Becton become a reclamation project under Jeff Stoutland. But, Green was running third team left guard at OTAs and, he's as much of a reclamation project for his play, right, Mike, as opposed to Becton, who – it was not as much about, it was about his play for sure, but it was really about keeping his weight down, being in the right position. Obviously moving to guard seemed better for him, but the first and foremost thing was keeping his weight down. So with Green, the first and foremost thing is staying healthy. But even when he played a lot, he just didn't play well when he did play. So Steen is a guy they drafted, third round, was put in some situations last year where he had to go in on the fly, which is not easy.
Well, I feel like this question comes up a lot, and Stephen and Bridgeton asked about it because last year Steen seemingly was the guy, and then Becton got one shot, and then he never gave it up. And Kenyon Green, being a former first-round pick, kind of profiles similar to the story of Becton.
It does, with those slight differences of at least Kenyon Green got on the field quite a bit, but he did not play well. And he really struggled. And I don't think it was a weight or conditioning thing. He just did not look like the same player that scouts thought he was coming out of college. And then he had the injury. So he missed a year with an injury. And I imagine that didn't help him out any in his quest to improve and look better. He's really kind of I don't want to say fascinating. We've seen first round quote unquote busts before, but this guy was not overdrafted, right? I mean, when he came out, he was considered the number one guard, interior offensive lineman in that draft. He went high as he should have based on his tape, and it just didn't translate to the NFL.
All right, Moshe, let's get a question here from Rick in Irma, who wants to know, what do you make of Zach Baun's comments about the defense being way ahead of where they were at last year at this time?
Well, I think that makes a lot of sense, right? Last year at this time, Vic Fangio was just installing the Fangio defense, his version of it, the real Fangio defense, not the knockoff, not the John Gannon version, not anybody Sean Desai's version. It was his defense. And then there was a lot of uncertainty, inside linebacker especially. No one knew Zach Baun was going to become the Zach Baun that he's become. Nakobe Dean missed some time from injury, so he was kind of come back and cut his teeth. They had remember at this time last year, Quinyon Mitchell was practicing at the nickelback spot, and Cooper DeJean wasn't practicing with the team at all because of injuries. So you're trying to learn who you are. You've got all these new players. Isaiah Rodgers was coming off a missed year from suspension. You're trying to learn a new defense, new concepts with new players. That's always going to lead to a learning curve, right? That's got to be pretty steep. But everybody is back pretty much. I mean, this is a defense this year that's not going to have too many new faces, just only a safety. And honestly, Andrew Makuba has played in this style of defense before. And a new corner, but even the new corner, if it's Keely Ringo, it's a guy who's been here. If it's Adoree Jackson, he's been around the league long enough. I mean, I don't think it'll be too steep of a learning curve for him.
Speaking of corner, Howard in Woodstown wants to know, what's your sense of the pecking order at cornerback behind Quinyon Mitchell? Which players could push for real playing time?
Yeah, I mean, may the best man win, right? And that's the competition between Keely Ringo and Adoree Jackson. I think that it's going to be a close competition. I would put Keely Ringo only in the leaderboard right now because he's a draft pick and he's young, cost-controlled. So as we talked about, I think last week, Mike, that's a guy that inside the organization wants to win. But if it's better for the team that Adoree Jackson wins, they're fine with that too. That's why he's here. And then again, in base, you might see Cooper DeJean playing outside. But they're going to be in nickel for almost most of the games that they play, most of the games. And Cooper DeJean will be in the nickel. Quinyon will be at one side, and it'll either be Keely or Adoree in the other.
All right, let's go to Kevin Summers' points question. To lessen Saquon Barkley's workload, do you see a bigger presence for him in the passing game, more running back screens, play action, wrinkles?
I'd love to see that. I don't know if, it's funny because Adam and I talked about this on the pod, and I noted in a story for Philly Voice recently about Saquon Barkley's workload. He had 300 and I want to say 76 total touches last year, 345 in carries, and 20 some odd receptions. And the last player to do that 2 years in a row, to have at least 375 touches 2 years in a row, was Steven Jackson in 2009 and 2010. So it's been a long, long time since you've seen a guy have that kind of workload 2 years in a row. So I don't know if I would consider less carries, but an equal number of catches to be less of a workload. Yeah, you might take less hits, but if they're screens, you may not.
Yeah.
So that's a good question. I just think in general,
I feel like we've been talking about
a bigger workload for the backup.
And I feel like we've been talking about the running back catching the ball in this offense for the entire Sirianni era.
Yeah, we have. It's just not been their thing. It's just too bad. I love the tight end screens they used to run, and I think the running back screens would be effective, and we'll see. The wheel routes seem to have taken place. But in general, I just believe that if Will Shipley can really show his worth as a third down back, as a pass protector, blitz pickup, the finer elements, then they can put him on the field even more, because he certainly has enough juice, more than Kenny Gainwell, to be an adequate backup and to give Saquon some rest without losing the impact.
Geoff Mosher, Monday mailbag edition of Football at 4 here. A lot of good questions. Let's get a couple more here. Why don't we? Alan in Northfield. Mosher, pick one. Jair Alexander or Justin Simmons. Who is the better fit for this defense?
Oh, I mean, there's no question about it. It's not about fit. They're both really good fits for what they do. But when healthy, Jair Alexander is top three.
Well, I don't want to speak for Al. I don't want to speak for Alan, but I guess he's suggesting, do they need a safety more than a corner? And maybe Simmons knowing the defense makes him a better fit than Alexander? I don't know.
I mean, I feel like the Eagles are really happy and comfortable with the pairing, at least for this year, of Reed Blankenship, Andrew Makuba. Maybe they question their depth a little bit if Sidney Brown's not the best fit. But is Justin Simmons going to be a guy who's okay being a number 3 safety, and which in some games you may not play that much? I mean, that's the reality of being a number 3 safety. But Jair Alexander, if you sign him, he instantaneously becomes your starting left cornerback, and he's going to play the entire game. There's no question element that maybe C.J. Gardner-Johnson or Johnson.
All right, let's go to Mosher Mailbag Monday edition of Football at 4 here on the Sports Bash Live 97.3 ESPN. Let's go to this one here from Jaden in Pleasantville. Jaden says, do you have a young player, Moshe, who could have a breakout summer and make the 53 unexpectedly? Good question, Jaden.
It is a good question. We've actually addressed it a little bit, Jaden. I recommend you listen to the Inside the Birds podcast. We did a little series on guys that we could expect to break out from both sides of the ball. unexpectedly is doing a lot of work in this question because we analyze the Eagles so much that we get to the point like Lewis Seen, for example, we did not put on this because even though his breakout would be unexpected because he hasn't played for the Eagles yet, it seems like every single day people ask us about him because he's a former first-round pick. But one of the guys that Adam and I mentioned was a defensive tackle that they signed as an undrafted free agent last year, Gabe Hall, out of Baylor, I think, if I'm correct. And this guy was a guy who NFL people told us probably should have been drafted if he gets his act together, if he gets a little kick in the rear end, and now he's got a year under his belt. He can be I don't want to call him a dominant force, but he could be a really good player. And the Eagles really don't have a deep D tackle rotation. Obviously, Jordan Davis could play more if they want to, but he comes off the field. They play 2 DTs. It'll be Moro Ajomo and Jalen Carter in the 4-man rush. And Moro has played well, but he's by no means like going to be gift wrapped 50% of the snap. He's got to earn it the way Milton Williams did. And then if not, they've got a rookie in Ty Robinson. But Gabe Hall has good size, good athleticism. So there's a chance that he can carve his way into this rotation with a really nice summer camp.
All right. I like this question here from Trent in Brigantine. Wants to know, is there any concern about Josh Sweat's production being tough to replace? What's your level of confidence in Jalix Hunt being, quote-unquote, the guy now?
Yeah, another big topic of conversation with Adam, Andrew DeCecco, myself on Inside the Birds, and I think we've talked about it here on the show with you. Yes, Josh Sweat was really reliable, good player, slipped a little bit at the end of 2023, had to take the pay cut. But in general, if you go look at his career, and then obviously what he did last year in the playoffs, he was a big factor. If you look at the Eagles now, Mike, between Nolan Smith and Jalix Hunt, the projected starters, you only have 11 combined NFL starts. I mean, I cannot remember an Eagles edge rushing tandem with such little pedigree. They usually always have one kind of proven guy, from a Trent Cole to a Brandon Graham to a Hassan Reddick to a Sweat, right? I mean, when's the last time we talked about an Eagles edge rusher who didn't have more than 10 NFL starts, or one that just has one, right? It was supposed to be Bryce Huff right now, but that didn't work, and so he's traded. So while we are most people are very enthused and optimistic about what they saw from both Jalix Hunt and Nolan Smith, by no means are these guys 3 or 4 year established players, okay? And I always tell you this, progress isn't always linear in the NFL. Sometimes guys regress a little bit. Sometimes opponents study them and they take a step back. So yes, there is concern on my end about this this edge rusher crew and the depth.
All right, well, it's an interesting answer to that question. And here comes an interesting question from Steve in Galloway. Who has a bigger leap in 2025, Nolan Smith or Jalix Hunt?
Well, that being said, my favorite phrase, I really do think that when you see what Jalix Hunt was able to do in a small amount of time and the athleticism that he has, I mean, this guy is a freakishly good athlete. Not that Nolan Smith isn't, but this guy was a safety in Ivy League just a few years ago, and now he's a Super Bowl champion edge rusher who, by the way, the film showed, Greg Cosell said this, I watched it myself, the film showed he actually was pretty good in run defense, too, for an edge rusher just learning how to have a plan there. So I think the ceiling is really high for the kid, and he's got great infrastructure. He's playing next to Jalen Carter, and he's being coached by a really good D-line and edge rush coach. So I can see a really big leap for Jalix Hunt, even bigger than Nolan Smith's.
Yeah, that one's a fun question. That's a good question, Stephen Galloway. Who's a bigger leap this year, Smith or Hunt? Who needs to be the bigger leap? Who do they count? Who are they counting on more here? Who do they have more depth behind? You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot there. That question's got a lot of meat on the bone.
Yeah, I got to tell you, just seeing these questions from Brigantine and Galloway, and there was another one from down the shore, obviously, where you're at. I just can't hate this weather. I want beach shore summer weather, dude. This is killing me.
It's supposed to be nice this weekend. You can come down the shore this weekend. Although it's been nice.
Rain again on the weekend.
It's supposed to be nice this weekend.
Okay.
Let's go to Jim in Margate. Is that your beach town, Margate? Is that your beach town there?
I love Margate. That's a good town, yeah.
Who is Geoff Mosher's candidate for most improved Eagle in 2025? That's another good question there.
Yeah, we have a lot of those. Most improved Eagle. That's a great question.
That was like a podcast topic.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about Will Shipley on that podcast. I mean, obviously, if Tyler Steen wins the right guard job, I think that's a really good spot. But I mean, Jalen Hunt, I really think Jalen Hunt could be the most improved Eagle in 2025. I think he can be a guy who gets you, a high pass rush win rate, good run defense, maybe gets you 6 to 8, if not more sacks, tons of pressures. He's definitely got that shot, but so would Moro Ojomo. I tell you the real story, Mike. We'll talk about this on Wednesday, because I'm writing a little series on PhillyVoice.com about how many players the Eagles have that are homegrown talents now compared to when they won their first Super Bowl in 2017, and then even when they went to the Super Bowl in 2022, and then last year, and then you look at this year coming up. But they are far more of a draft and develop team and homegrown talent than they have ever been. And there's a chance here that this defense, Mike, and this is a story that's up right now on Philly Voice. It's a chance here this defense is going to be entirely homegrown outside of Zach Baun, right? And everybody else would be. So 11 of the 12 starters, if Keely Ringo beats out Adoree Jackson, will be homegrown. Is that not incredible?
When you say it like that, yeah, I'm thinking, that's pretty crazy that every single player on the defense is a drafted player.
Yeah, and if Tyler Steen wins the right guard job, every single offensive lineman is a homegrown player. Pretty impressive.
Very impressive. Great job, Howie Roseman. It seems like you know what you're doing now all of a sudden.
Yeah, how about that?
Stay down the shore. Oh, everybody's down the shore. That's where we're located. Jeff in Ocean City. Question for Jeff. The Eagles started 2-2 last season. What will the record after 4 games be this season? Dallas on the road, Kansas City, L.A. Rams on the road, Tampa Bay.
2-2.
Same, huh?
Yeah.
Let's see. You think at Kansas City, and then they go on the road in Tampa and lose again?
It could be Tampa. It could be, what was it, game 3 again? I forget.
L.A. Rams.
It could be the Rams. I think the Rams are going to be
Can
really.
you not see the questions on the screen?
Oh, there you go. I didn't realize that was in sequential order. My fault.
Oh. I just say I was like, wait, can you not see the questions on the video?
I can. No, I can see them. They're great. I see the lineup and everything.
Gotcha. Okay. We'll do one more from Al, Big Al in Vineland. Jeff, what's your running back depth chart?
Yeah, awesome question, Al. Because listen, I'll sit here and make a prediction, but certainly not etched in stone. I'm just not as much of a believer that A.J. Dillon is going to be healthy enough. I have a little bit of the Rashad Penny-itis with him because he missed all last year with nerve issues in his neck. I mean, that's serious. We saw that really derail Jordan Howard's career after he came to the Eagles. So they drafted Will Shipley. He's got a lot of great qualities. Not that A.J. Dillon doesn't, but and I don't think A.J. Dillon's going to stick around to be the number 3 back. I think he's either your number 2 or he's not making the team. So with that said, I will go Barkley 1, Shipley 2, and I kind of like this Montrell Johnson, the rookie free agent guy.
Wow.
That they signed. I think that there's a shot because of his 4.3 speed that he could make it. I'm missing somebody. Who else am I missing? There's another running back, right? That I'm probably.
Do you count the punt returner Williams as one?
And they're kind of putting him in the wide receiver room, so I think that's a little bit interesting. But yeah, I definitely Barkley 1, Shipley 2. Maybe A.J. Dillon does make it, and he's 2/3 and interchangeable with Will Shipley depending on the situation. That would probably be more likely, and then you can get like the Montrell Johnson on the practice squad most likely.
Dillon, if he's not healthy enough, he almost would feel like who was the guy from Seattle they signed a couple of years ago, and it was like perplexing as to why they weren't using him.
Rashad Penny.
Rashad Penny, yes.
I just mentioned him, Mike. I said Rashad Penny-itis. I have Rashad Penny-itis about A.J. Dillon.
There you go. Well, you were right. You said it, and I didn't pick up what you were putting down there.
Can you not see my answers on your screen? No, I'm just kidding.
Big Al in Vineland with the last question for today's Monday Mosher mailbag for football at 4 here on the Sports Bash Live 97.3 ESPN. If we didn't get to your questions today, we'll do a Monday Mosher mailbag here on the Sports Bash throughout the summertime. You can ask your Eagles questions for football at 4. We'll have the division previews coming up with Andrew on Thursdays. And, of course, you can check out the Inside the Birds podcast on all podcasting platforms and check out more from Jeff over at phillyvoice.com and on Football at 4 here on the Sports Bash. All right, Moshe, see you, bud.
See you guys. Take care.
All right, there you go. Jeff Mosher, everybody, from the Inside the Birds podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed the Mosher mailbag questions, and we appreciate you guys continuing to send them in. As you send them in, if we have enough, we'll continue to use them.